Hi there. I just wanted to do a quick tutorial on form basics. If you're starting out with strength, you've heard I should be strength training. Where do I start? This is for you. So, I just got done teaching my class, and I teach 3 times a week in my online studio. 2 are HIIT style workouts, 1 is all strength. And then my students usually do 1 strength workout on their own, or I'll send them one that they can do on their own. And then I always recommend doing a Pilates or stretch kind of workout during the week. But anyway, just got done teaching that. So if you want more information on that, shoot me a message. But just want to make sure everything's working. So if you're just getting started with strength, I always recommend, and I have clients who I work with, I just go through the basics with body weight. Then when they get stronger, they can add things like resistance training, like bands, like weights. So you don't have to start with those. So your base is going to be range of motion, what should I be feeling, and correct form. Because if you don't have that dialed in, when you add resistance, that could set you up for injury, and just not doing the exercises correctly through the joints. Okay. So whenever I'm working with someone, we always do a mobility warm up, mobilizing the joints, the knees, the ankles, the elbows, the shoulders, the hips, mobilizing, and then stretching I save for the end with a little bit of mobility. Little dynamic stretching is good in the beginning with the warm up. But just want to go over some of the basics of the foundational strength moves that you should start with. So in a squat, you hear a lot about squats. They're great for just body weight. You can add dynamic movements like jumps. You can add weights to make it harder. You can also combine it with something else, a bicep curl, a tricep kickback, something like a deadlift. So squats, feet apart, weight in the heels. The first thing you're going to do in a squat is send your hips back. This is the missing component that a lot of people miss. So watch what happens if I don't bring my hips back in a squat. If I go right down, my knees are going to be in front of my heels. Now, sometimes we can have our knees in front of our heels, like when we go up steps or something like that, or down steps. But in a squat, we really don't want that poor form. So the first thing you do is hips back, like you're going to sit back in a chair. This kind of all happens at once. And once you get it, it's going to be second nature. Even if you do squats, I say this all the time in my class because it's a good reminder for me and everybody else. So you send your hips back and then go down and come up. Send the hips back, down, up. So in a squat, your eyes are up, your chest is up. And a lot of people cue squats like weight in the heels. Well, I could have my weight in the heels and still do it wrong. So let me show you that first way. My weight's in my heels, but I'm going down, down. I didn't make that little adjustment to get the correct form. So squats are great. Start with 10, build up. When they get easier, maybe add a band above the knees. Maybe you add some weights here, or you can hold a weight here like a goblet squat. So that's correct form for a squat. Once you get that, you're good because you're going to use it in all of your strength training when you start to add resistance and other joints and other muscle groups. Okay, second one's a deadlift. So your feet are about hip distance apart. So in my warm-up, I would do a good morning. So let's start with the good morning first. My feet are a little further apart, fingertips here or at the crease. I send the hips back and come up. So in my warm-ups, I always do squats and deadlift and good mornings. So slight bend in the knee, it's more of a hinge move. My chest is facing the floor and then it comes up. What I see in a good morning sometimes is this. We thrust the hips, we don't want that. You can stay in a nice tight core without leaning back, okay? So when we have weights in our hands for a deadlift, and I want you to just try it without, feet are about hip distance apart, and you're just going to hinge and push up, okay? So yeah, your weight's still in the heels, but this is going to get more glutes and hamstrings and also low back and core. So you want to pretend you have dumbbells in your hands, and you're going to keep those arms close to your body. You don't want to be out here because that's going to be too much pressure on your back. So I always say, get the form. There's a slight bend in the knee. Never want to do this with locked knees. There's lots of different ways you can do a deadlift, but this is the most common. Just to do it parallel, you can always do more of a bent knee, feet wider, but I want you to nail this first. Push into those heels, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze on the way up. So it's a slow hinge, and then we come up nice and strong. So you can always add resistance to that, holding on to weights usually. That's another good, solid move to nail, okay? So they're also very knee friendly. If you don't like a lot of squats, a deadlift is going to be for you. You can also do it with a single leg to get a little more unilateral work. You could try a few of those. So have 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You're not going to be back here. You're just hinged, very knee friendly. Pushing into the heel, you're going to feel that overload, okay? All right, you do that on both sides. So, excuse me. So those are just a couple of base moves, especially when you're getting started. You want to make sure that you have squats and deadlifts the correct form because they are a foundation where you can combine them with a lot of things. The next I'm going to go with is a push-up, okay? And I'm going to get to the push-up with a roll down. So I love a roll down from the top. So we're just going to come up, nod the chin, roll down. Let's just do a few of these roll downs. Again, my knees are slightly bent. Now I'm going into a little back extension here. If you didn't want to do that, just nod the chin, roll, roll, roll. Pushing into the heels, roll up. You can do a little shoulder roll at the top. Nod the chin like you're rolling off a wall. Now the next time we go down, you want to hold the hands down there and walk out to downward facing dog. Okay, so we're going to walk out and you're going to be in downward facing dog. Pedal those feet right away. It's a great way to warm up. You can walk out and come back in. Okay, but we're going to come into a plank. So down dog to plank. Okay, down dog to plank. If you're having trouble with this, I'll show you an option. Plank, hands under your shoulders. Option, child's pose to modified plank. So when you can't do a plank or you're just getting started in planking, you can do it on your knees to just get the feeling of what you should be experiencing. So right here, I'm feeling my core. Now, if you have any wrist issues, you can put your hands up on a higher surface, so a bench. You can elevate with a rolled up mat. You can also have your hands on dumbbells. Okay, so the plank is a foundational, you want to get that because you want to be able to do a push-up. So let's start here with our modified plank. If I was to do a push-up, I would take my hands a little wider, push down and up. My core is tight. My elbows are coming back. And you can, let's just take a stretch back. So you can always elevate the hands on a chair, a countertop, make sure the chair is sturdy. But in a push-up, it's this kind of motion, not this, okay? So you want your hands can be wider or narrower depending if you're working the triceps or not. What I like to do is take a dumbbell and put your hands a few inches away from the dumbbell. Then you set up your feet and your knees. So modified, your chest hovers over the dumbbell. Okay, so you could do this with your hands a little closer. You're going to get a little more tricep. It's a little harder. But in the beginning, just have your hands to the outside of the dumbbell and your chest hits the dumbbell. What I normally see in a push-up is this. My hips are too high up and I'm leading with my head. So let's correct it. Maybe you do one push-up and take a stretch. This is how I usually warm up my classes. It's a great way to build up. Maybe you do 2 push-ups. And you don't have to go down too low either in the beginning. You can just go down halfway. I had a client who was just going into full push-ups. She didn't go down all the way. That's okay. It's a base move. And then we added a little height with a bench, and she got down a little lower. So good way to start on your knees, get the full range of motion. When that feels too easy, start to do full push-ups. I always recommend starting with something up a little higher. You can do it on your countertop in the kitchen. All right, just make sure those hips are down. So push-ups, we went into downward facing dog. Those are really good exercises. Another one I'm going to go over is a glute bridge. So if you don't like to squat and you want to work the legs, this is another one you can add resistance to with a band above the knees, holding a weight at the hips. So we're going to roll down. And if you can't roll down, you can hold on to your legs, but you can roll it down. Arms at your side. We're going to plant the feet and push into the whole foot. Okay, so we're going to keep our head, neck, and shoulders down, and we're just going to rock the pelvis forward and back. So you can have your hands on your hips to just kind of guide the movement. And what I'm doing here is I'm getting into the first stage of the glute bridge, which is tilting the pelvis because the hips are going to come up. This is a great way to just kind of warm up your back too. And in Pilates, or really in any class, it kind of helps you establish that pelvic neutral where you're not tilted, you're not arched, but you're really solid in your core. That might mean you have no space between your back, but everybody's a little different in their anatomy. So if you have a little bit of a space there, but you're still strong in your core, that's going to be okay for you. So I can't say don't arch your back because you might just normally arch your back. So we're going to have our hands down. We're going to start to tilt the pelvis and peel up. Now you may just want to come up to here and then go right back down. So I recommend starting small, and you're rolling up to the tips of your shoulder blades, okay? And you're going down and up sequentially. So tilt the pelvis. Imagine peeling up, finding that top, making sure your shoulders are away from the ears, and then as best you can, coming down is a little harder. One vertebrae at a time. And then tilt and squeeze your glutes. You can hold it up there. You can add a few pulses. Arms down is always going to just give you a little more support for the core. If you want to destabilize the core a little more, make it harder on your abs, just bring your arms up. But in the beginning, get the base of the moves. Okay. And roll it down. Good. Hug your knees in. Give yourself a little stretch. So those are some really base moves that you can start doing with just your body weight. You can do the glute bridges. You can do squats, deadlifts just with body weight, and definitely push-ups. So that's going to give you a really solid foundation to your strength training. So get those moves. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, but it's a starting place. And we all started somewhere. Even if you've been lifting for 40 years, we all started somewhere. So it's important to just find that really solid foundation, and then you can build from there. So for instance, adding weights in your hands for squats or deadlifts, adding a resistance band above the knees for a glute bridge, but you want to get the base first. So try these out. Give yourself, 15 or 20 minutes to get into them. Maybe you can do 10 of each rep and then just keep cycling through and really get that mind-muscle connection. So let's come up together. If you're on the floor with me, you're going to just come into all fours, do a little cat and cow. This is kind of like our roll down. Curl the toes under and then squeeze your abs. Let your knees hover, and then we're going to come into downward facing dog. So we hover, we come up, and we press. Shoulders away from the ears. Pedal out those feet. This is an awesome stretch for the body, for the hamstrings, for the feet. And then we're going to slowly walk our hands in. Start to bend the knees if you need. Roll it up one vertebrae at a time. And roll those shoulders back. So you can just start with rolling down, rolling up, maybe walking out to a plank or walking out into downward facing dog. Those are solid exercises to start with, and also great ways to warm up. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, please message me. Check out my website to find out more about me, how you can work with me one-on-one. I'm a health coach and nutrition coach. Sometimes I combine personal training and health coaching with my clients to get a little bit of both. Usually 30 or 45-minute sessions are the norm, but we can always talk about options. Whenever I'm talking to a client, I give them like a 15-minute discovery call, either Zoom or messenger call, where we can chat and see if we're a good fit for each other, and then work out the details. So I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about my online studio, shoot me a message. I have some spots available there. It's nice because we're all on Zoom. So we turn our cameras on so I can see everybody, correct form. If you've ever seen any of my YouTube videos, I do record those. I don't record the participants, but I record what I'm doing. So you can see how I teach my classes. You can see if I say somebody's name that I'm watching them, like, oh, put your heels down, giving little cues. So I'm constantly instructing, and I make the workouts fun, different. They're all different in terms of timing, in terms of resistance. I rarely repeat the same workout twice. May repeat a muscle group or an exercise, but not really the same workout. And we just have a lot of fun together. You know, it's nice to sweat together. It's a camaraderie. So it's a great way to bring group exercise into the online virtual world. So if you have any questions about that, shoot me a message. And my tip of the day is have a plan. I said that on social media today. I try to do a tip of the day, just some food for thought. Everybody's busy. Sometimes when you hear something, you're like, oh, yeah, I can do that. Drink more water, get more protein. Today's tip was have a plan. Have a plan for whatever your focus is or whatever is important to you for what you're starting this week. In my world, health and wellness. But we can apply that to anything. If you're building a house, if you're adding on your house, if you're, buying a car, you're going to do your research, you're going to have a plan. So same thing with health and wellness. Have a plan when you're doing your meal prep. You can have a plan for the week when you do your food shopping. Oh, I basically know what my schedule is. I know when I'm going to be eating out. I know when I'm going to have to eat on the fly. So maybe having that food in the freezer is going to be great for a go-to healthy meal. Put some thought into it, because when we put thought into anything, whether it's your workouts, whether it's your sleep hygiene, your stress management, your nutrition, your mindset, it works better. It works better. We have a guide. It can be simple as writing it down on a piece of paper. You could put in your notes on your phone, but have a plan. Don't go into your week kind of willy-nilly, because when we do that, the results are maybe not what we want. So if you have any questions, let me know, and have a wonderful day. Have a plan and drink your water.